Hello folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Today we are going to be playing with Madness, courtesy of Lick from my Discord, and today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. We'll take a look at them after round 1. So generally speaking, in case you're not familiar with this archetype, this is a self-discard archetype. So we're going to use cards like Lion's Eye Diamond, Burning Inquiry, and Faithless Looting to discard cards, which can do things like make hollow ones cheaper, or more importantly, let us cast cards with the Madness ability, sometimes for free, and sometimes for a little bit of mana. Putrid Imp serves as a more long-term controlled way to discard our cards, whereas a lot of the other stuff is a one-time burst. What we're going to be doing that's unique in today's video is we are going to test out Asylum Visitor to see if it's strong enough. This is a 3/1 vampire wizard with madness for 1 and a black, and at the beginning of each player's upkeep, if that player has no cards in hand, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. There have been a handful of new Madness cards printed over the last couple of years, some of which are seeing play in the Pauper Burn archetype, and I want to see if it's reasonable to crack LED for some black mana. Traditionally in this deck list, you tend to crack it for red, because red gives you mana for both Flashback for Faithless Looting, as well as Anje's Ravager, but that's not always the case. You can play this deck in a lot of ways, in a lot of colors. I've played blue in the past for things like Careful Study and Breakthrough. I've played it as a straight red-green deck list with some things like Street Wraith, maybe filling in the curve. I've tried Mana Bond a couple of times and played some Urza Sagas in the list. There's a lot of flexibility in what you do with the core cards. And a lot of times, flex slots are things like Street Wraith, Kitchen Imp, Gamble, some number of Angers, and usually like 1 or 2 Ox of Agonas. Sometimes you'll get a Hogak in there to be a little bit spicy. As far as the sideboard goes, I've kind of picked a couple of directions and leaned into that. Usually this deck wants 2 or 3 Firestorms. I've been really happy every time I've ever drawn this card. I'm going to try the full playset today, which might be too many, but I don't think I'm going to feel bad about playing it. Then I have a handful of hate or artifact cards. A lot of times this deck runs Force of Vigor to specifically deal with Leyline of the Void, but the deck's not nearly as impacted by Leyline as you might imagine. Like, the biggest thing it shuts off is Vengevine, and the secondary thing is Anger. But your Madness cards get discarded into exile. They don't go directly into your graveyard, so you kind of dodge the graveyard hate with a surprising number of your cards. So the other reason I don't want to play Force of Vigor is if we take a look at this main deck, I only actually have 8 green cards in it. So while Force of Vigor is a totally reasonable thing to hardcast if you get to green, even if I play a full playset of Force of Vigor, I've only got 12 green cards. And I would need 2 of those so that I have something to pitch to it. So I'm just going to try playing without that card today. The other thing that this deck often needs is some way to fight against an opposing combo deck. Is like we're a very fast aggro deck, and instead of like splashing white for something like Deafening Silence, I am going to try just running more Kitchen Imps and making it more likely that on turn 1 I can just go land, LED, Asylum Visitor, Kitchen Imp, and just have 5 power in play and start going and hope that I can just kill my opponent before they can do their combo thing. I'm not 100% sure if that's better than like splashing white for Deafening Silence, but I don't think I want to play a 4-color version of this deck list. I think that's straining the mana base pretty hard. Kind of the final question I have is whether or not I'm actually supposed to play a basic land in this deck list. Like, Wasteland is very real, and wanting to be able to play multiple red 1-drops like turn after turn is important. But like once you are in the 3rd color, it does become a little bit more questionable. This deck is essentially base black-red, since there's like really only 1 green card that I'm going to hardcast most of the time. But if I'm fetching black-red early, that might mean it's harder to cast Vengevine later on. Alright, I think with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into the matches and see how the deck feels today. If you're new here, please consider subscribing if you like what you see, and if you're a regular, please throw me a like before this video begins. That's the easiest way to support my content for free. you're in the financial position to support my content, please consider subscribing on YouTube, becoming a YouTube member, or joining my Patreon. Either one of those things gains you access to my Discord, where you can chat with me a little bit more. All right, let's battle. All right, I think I'm going to keep my opening hand here. There's a little bit of variance with what happens with this Burning Inquiry, but there's a very good chance that it either puts, like, one of these 3 relevant cards into my graveyard, or gets me into something that will be powerful a little bit later. I think I just go for the basic mountain here, since I specifically have Anger in my hand. I might need the black, though. Like, I might lose this land to Burning Inquiry. So I guess, given that information, I should just see what happens. Alright, 1 Vengevine in the graveyard. I might have just destroyed my opponent's hand. Unclear. Burning Inquiry is going to be extremely dangerous here. Let's see if I messed up my opponent's hand. Like, we're playing against Reanimator. Okay. I'm nervous. That's an Arcana Cruelty in graveyard. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yes. I will sacrifice a creature. I think I discard the Vengevine. If I win this matchup, it's because I do something... Oh, that stings. Actually, it's not so bad. They can't take the Anger. They can't... Well, they could take this. I'm going to lose Asylum Visitor here. It's really surprising, actually, that my opponent was able to go off on turn 1 after losing Dark Ritual, Animate Dead, and Polluted Delta. I will not cast that, unfortunately. It costs 1 and a black. And I've kind of whiffed on my draw here. I can discard Anger on my next turn and then hope to draw well. It probably needs to be, like, Burning Inquiry specifically for me to do 15 in 1 turn. I have 4, 8, 9, 10, 11 as of right now. Son of a gun. And damage this turn plus trigger, 13 damage this turn, 14 damage with this. Yeah. I think Burning Inquiry is basically my only out to that. It's gotta be good. Discard the Anger. Take 9, going to 4. I'll go ahead and fetch a Taiga here. Just marginally thin the deck. Vengevine is not going to do it. My start was really strong. My opponent's start was, like, surprisingly resilient here. So, 4 Leyline of the Void are coming in. Just absolutely, unquestionably, what comes out. And I guess as a secondary question, like, do I want some number of Kitchen Imps as well? Burning Inquiry is, like, Schrodinger's magic card here. Like, it's simultaneously good and bad, and it really depends on what point of the game we're at. I might need it to fuel some of my broken starts, although, because, like, if I have a Leyline in play and then I cast Burning Inquiry and I make my opponent discard a Serenity or something like that, it's incredibly strong. It's just awkward, because, like, I might Leyline and then, like, just randomly discard a hollow one and give my opponent something to reanimate. But I think my graveyard's going to have something to reanimate most of the time anyway. Alright, I think the Ox is a little slow here. That gets me my first Leyline. Maybe a Trim Burning Inquiry. Maybe I Trim Burning Inquiry, but can't afford to get rid of all of it. It's also possible that I'm not going to grind with Asylum Visitor. I want to do something like this. Because whatever I floop onto the board the first time is probably the thing that, like, has the chance of winning me the game. Let's try something like this. I would like to play first. This has no land. Yes. I will keep this hand. Yes, I know this hand has no lands. I'm aware. It's fine. I get an Ancestral every turn. It is admittedly quite awkward if my opponent reanimates the other Anje's Ravager that I discard. Or is it? Do I just bin this? I probably just bin this so I don't put an Anje's Ravager into my graveyard immediately. I boarded out the Ox so I don't need additional cards in my graveyard. Alright, opening actions. Leyline of the Void. And I can cast both of these at instant speed off LED. So I'm going to give my opponent the chance to fire off a discard spell at me. And then do this in response. Unmask, targeting me. Yeah! Alright, that's pretty cool. Cast that. And cast my Rootwalla as well. So I 2-for-1'd my opponent by not doing my play at sorcery speed, which is pretty cool. A Burning Inquiry. I am interested in casting that card this turn, I think, if I had the opportunity to, which I don't necessarily here. Alright. Opponent goes to 16. I guess I cast Faithless Looting. Probably just off bad lands. I'm probably keeping Kitchen Imp to just put in next turn. The question is, like, if I draw lands, do I want lands more? I don't think so. Let's keep the Kitchen Imp. Keeping the Kitchen Imp costs me some damage in the short term with Blazing Rootwalla, but just generally speaking, increases the amount of pressure that I can have. Oh, fuck, it's show and tell. I mean, that's fine. It is occurring. I probably just lose to this, unfortunately. Like, my Anje's Ravager has to attack into it. And my opponent's at 19. I needed them to do, like, a Serenity type thing. So that I had just another turn of attacks. But I am not going to beat this here. GG's. Leagues have been so full of graveyard-based combo decks recently. Like, way more so than normal. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. Moxfield is a deck building website for Magic the Gathering with a ton of functionality. And today I want to show you the tags. So a lot of times when you look at a deck list for, say, a commander deck list, you have some very large categories, but you might have some personal ways that you go and view these categories, like combo pieces, fast mana, humans, interaction, and you can actually sort these deck lists in a lot of ways. So consider checking out Moxfield if this appeals to you. Okay, I am going to keep this hand, and we will see where it goes. I think this is a time where I get a basic mountain, since I have multiple Burning Inquiries in hand at this point. My opponent is mulliganing to 5, which probably means we're playing against another, like, fast graveyard combo deck again. And I think given my opponent's mulligan to 5, I'm actually going to fetch a non-basic. I think I want Taiga, since I have a Basking Rootwalla in hand already. And let's see what happens here. That's maybe good. Unclear. I will not be able to cast that Anje's Ravager. And I did not discard any of the cards that I wanted to discard. So I had 3 cards in hand that would have been very good to discard. And I just missed on them. And if my opponent has Mox Diamond, Land, Life from the Loam, I lost so much by casting Burning Inquiry. In a way that's very unfortunate. Yeah. I am not going to beat that Tabernacle on a single land here. I'm going to cast LED. I'm going to cast Burning Inquiry and kind of hope that this works out in a way that I can make another land drop. Alright, opponent has dredged. Multiple times, in fact. This did not work out in a way that I can make multiple land drops, which is unfortunate. I think I am interested in doing this, though, because there's still a chance that I make my land drop this turn, because I have put Anger into my graveyard, which means my Anje's Ravager does have haste. So I will get a draw 3 here. Understood. Alright, my cards did not come out in a very reasonable order here. So I think the way this game is going to go is I'm going to get wastelanded, my opponent is going to play Tabernacle, and that largely just wins the game on the spot. The Anger in my graveyard helps out with that a little bit. Probably names this little fellow right here. Oh, no, they're going for a land. sort of hedging more long-term on the mana denial plan. That's no to Vengevine. I have to do yes to Anje's Ravager. No to this. I would really like a land here. Nope. I bash in for 3. I discard 4 cards with Madness, and I am not able to play any of them. Alright, so after that stack clears, I get in for 3 points of damage. I have another land. I do not have a Faithless Looting in the yard here. Oh man, it's really awkward that I have to get black mana if I want to cast this card. And I do want to cast this card. Yeah. I think I'm hoping that this game is over in short fashion. And in case you can't read this text, this is currently a 2/2 that cannot block. There's some worlds where I use an LED in my upkeep to save a couple of creatures. Alright, there's a Life from the Loam, that's a Boseiju, and an Urza Saga. Okay. Yeah, this is gonna be tight. Pay for both of these. I mean, there's another land drop. That's actively good for me. Here's 5 damage. I get to draw 3. That puts my opponent to 3. I probably just fetch and play out the Putrid Imp. A little hard for me. Oh, shit. Badlands, Badlands, Badlands. Yeah, I have 3 Badlands, and I randomly discarded 2 off Burning Inquiries early in the game. That's awkward. That's very awkward. I wish I would have realized that. I grab Taiga. Call it a turn. As of right now, my opponent can make an Urza Saga Construct token to block Anje's Ravager. And then I just play a Putrid Imp with haste. And I have lethal in the air. Rashad Port can get awkward. Alright, my opponent has played the Boseiju. Alright, I pay for these with my Taiga. Or my Taigas, rather. A 0-cost Madness creature would be a fantastic draw here. Ox will work. So, this is first creature. I'm going to get rid of my opponent's graveyard here. I will crack this for red. Ox will be second creature. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that triggers double Vengevine. So outside of something like Glacial Chasm, this is more than enough damage. Alright, I could get Bojuka Bogged here. I am getting Bojuka Bogged here. So this is going to remove the haste from this Putrid Imp. And then these Vengevine triggers don't actually do anything. You get to draw 3 cards. Can't actually fetch black. I'll play my land. I don't actually need to cast Blazing Rootwalla here. I can cast it with this attack trigger without using the mana. I guess it ends up in the same spot. It doesn't matter either way. Alright. I'll attack with both of these. Going to discard the Asylum Visitor to give my Imp flying. Not able to cast that card. Okay, that is an interesting set of cards to draw. Yeah, I knew that construct was coming. I couldn't really do anything about that. So my opponent goes to 2 here. My opponent has multiple Life from the Loams in graveyard. I'm not really sure if I'm supposed to cast Burning Inquiry. I think I'm just going to save that till next turn and play Lion's Eye Diamond. I can instant speed play a Basking Rootwalla if I need to. But I think in this turn cycle, I want my opponent to, like, if they need the Tabernacle, I want them to actually spend the draw getting the Life from the Loam and then playing the Tabernacle. Because they're... I don't know if they have a second Pithing Needle. If they have a second Pithing Needle, I do want to fetch here. I'm going to leave the basic in the deck in case they Boseiju me. And I'll call that good. Possible I'm supposed to activate Putrid Imp here. I'm not expecting second Pithing Needle, though. Yeah, this is fine. If they tap out to equip, okay, they've got a Tabernacle. That's fine. Yeah, if they just play Tabernacle, I have an onboard win. I just discard both. I discard 2 cards to Putrid Imps, and I have lethal in the air. Opponent says, I forgot the Putrid Imps don't fly, so I can live with Shadow Spear equipped potentially. But they do fly. I'm not gonna say that in chat, like, I can discard to make them fly, because I think my opponent thinks it's, like, threshold for flying. But it's threshold +1/+1 and can't block. So let's not say anything, and I'll mention that later. So I think I'm interested in these cards. Leyline of the Void is playable, but like I'm very much the beatdown deck here. So I want to be able to answer these Urza Saga tokens that are going to be in the way of me beating down, but I'm a little worried about cutting too many creature cards. The Burning Inquiries are awkward this league because I've played against 2 decks that have like graveyard related synergies. But I lose a lot of my speed if I cut them. I'm not sure that I can do that. My opponent just has so many ways to beat me. Like, this deck often plays 2 or 3 Flaring Pain in the sideboard specifically for Glacial Chasm. And I've opted to cut that because it's basically only good in this matchup. So that's a thing that has occurred. I think I'm going to cut the Singleton Kitchen Imp for the Meltdown and then figure out how to get the Ancient Grudges in there. I have not successfully put a Hollow One into play yet. And my opponent has Boseiju. Maybe, like, in respect of Boseiju, I'm supposed to trim these. That's very possible, but then, like, I lose out on some of those crazy, like, Burning Inquiry, Hollow One, Anger starts. But, like, with my opponent having access to, like, Maze of Ith, Tabernacle, Glacial Chasm, Bojuka Bog, all at, like, the whim of a crop rotation, this matchup feels tough. Like, I expect to lose both of the post-sideboard games, and I'll be happy if I'm wrong. I also think I might play the Hollow Ones on the play. Okay. Fetch Putrid Imp. Discard Rootwalla. Cast for free. Discard Ancient Grudge. Discard land. Play Hollow One. Have 6, kind of like 8 power in play on turn 1 with a Meltdown in hand to get rid of, like, Moxen that my opponent plays. While this is volatile and, like, can go wrong, this is probably enough power that I keep it, and it looks like my opponent is going to 5 cards. My mana's just a little awkward in keeping this hand, because I want to play Taiga so I can flashback Ancient Grudge in a lot of worlds. That's fine. I'm not playing a graveyard-focused hand. Anyway, finishing the thought, I want to keep Taiga to get rid of artifacts that my opponent might have with Ancient Grudge, but I also don't want to get like, Exploration Wasteland Tabernacle, for example, would be just insane against me. I think I'm just going to fetch Basic Mountain right here and give up the Ancient Grudge, which I think is going to get exiled in... or no, I can't. I have to fetch a Black Source. JK. This is what happens when you go and, like, are using all of your brain power to talk through lines rather than just play the game of Magic that is at hand. Let's always yield to that. Alright. I think I am fine discarding the Ancient Grudge since I have the Meltdown in hand. Need to discard one more. I'm not sure which one it's supposed to be. I think I'm going to just discard the Anje's Ravager so that I can make the next land drop, because I am so afraid of Wasteland right now. And then I will cast that Hollow One for free. This is a fast clock. Assuming I pump this, this is 4, 7, 8 damage very consistently. Alright. And this is, like, why I'm very afraid of this matchup. Like, my opponent just has so many good tools against me. I went from having a, 8 damage a turn clock to a 4 damage a turn clock. I will probably end up wastelanding this Soul Guide Lantern if my opponent just doesn't cycle it to draw a card. We'll see. See how bad the rest of this becomes. Yeah, this is why I kept that land earlier. Ugh, fuck me. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'll I'll pump the Lizard on the way out, but I am one Tabernacle away from having to concede this game. I am now only doing 2 damage a turn, and I almost certainly cannot win this game at that damage rate. I can turn it into 3 a turn by discarding a Blazing Rootwalla at instant speed. So that's Tabernacle. And I am willing to concede the game here. The game is not technically over, but I am far enough behind that I'm going to value my time here. All right. Do I want hollow ones? More hollow ones on the play. I just have so little counterplay against my opponent's deck. Like, they're gonna get me. I think I want more of these on the play. Just give my opponent less time to get set up. It may be on the play that I just want to like do something like this and say like I am doing the game 1 strategy. I am going to try to kill you. I'll keep the Meltdown because it clears everything and Urza Saga does, but I think I get rid of the Ancient Grudges. It's tough though, because if my opponent has Exploration plus Urza Saga, I really need the Ancient Grudges. Also, my opponent has like mulligan to 5 in multiple of these games, and it just hasn't mattered. Like, that's how favored their deck is here. Alright. Crack. Future Damp. Discard Vengevine. Discard Blazing Rootwalla. That gets Vengevine into play. I've discarded 2 cards. Discard Faithless Looting manually. Play Hollow One. And then decide if I want to crack LED to Faithless Looting. This is going to be a keep. It throws a whole lot of power into play on turn 1. A whole lot. Alright. I think I keep the LED in play rather than cast Faithless Looting immediately. Alright, Putrid Imp. Need to discard the Vengevine immediately. Now I discard the Blazing Rootwalla. My second card this turn, so I do get Vengevine. Alright, cool. Now I will discard the Faithless Looting. Gives me Hollow One. I am not going to fish for Anger specifically here. I'm going to keep this in play for Tabernacle-based reasons and potentially to do something a little bit more disgusting next turn. But, like, if my opponent opens up on Tabernacle, I want to be able to crack this, keep all my creatures for a turn, and bash in for 10 damage. And then hopefully I can just, like, draw another land to keep 2 creatures to finish the game off beyond that. Alright, Exploration's super bad. Alright, we'll see if they have a crop rotation. Yeah. This is why I didn't go all in looking for the Anger. Alright. Let's pay for all my cards. Alright, they're all paid for. I did draw the other land, which is very good. That means I bash in for a crap ton of damage this turn. And also pump this creature. Alright, that puts my opponent to 4. So assuming I pay for 2 of these, I have 2 different lethal threats next turn. Hopefully this was fast enough. If my turn 3 Goldfish isn't fast enough... Wait, no, that still works. That still works. Yeah, but if this isn't fast enough, there's not much I can do, right? I will pay for the Hollow One here. And then sacrifice the rest of these. Pay for the Hollow One because the Vengevine specifically can come back later. Although I can get bit in the butt if my opponent has something like Force of Vigor, but I would not be expecting that. Alright, do you have another crop rotation for Maze of Ith? Because if the answer is no, I should win here. God damn it. That's frustrating. So, Force of Vigor doesn't really affect Leyline of the Void, so it's literally only the Hollow Ones that impacts. That's really frustrating. Do I play this now? I probably play this now, trying to put some lizards into play. Whiff. I think I keep Asylum Visitor in case I draw a land. I can hardcast that. That's beyond frustrating. Alright. Alright, that is just sacrificing Soul Guide Lantern for a card, which is good for me for, like, Vengevine-based reasons. I probably need to cast this, because I am making no other play otherwise. It just can backfire if I hit a life from the loam for my opponent. Endurance. Alright. There goes my graveyard. And that was awful for me. Alright. So, if opponent draws a life from the loam, they probably win this one. That's where we're at. Alright, my graveyard is not sacred. Okay. I mean, I cast this and see if I hit the low percentage to keep the hollow one, I think. Because even if I miss and just discard a lizard or something like that, like, it is very much to my benefit to have literally anything on board. Yeah, Wasteland's very good. Exploration's fine. We're in top deck war, and I have a bunch of small creatures that I can find to hopefully, like, limp over the finish line. My opponent's top decks aren't actually particularly good. Like, they're looking for life from the loam specifically, and otherwise it's just, like, endurance that's good. I have not been able to catch a break this game. I think I just concede here. Like, my opponent has double Urza Saga, which is about to get Shadow Spear. And then, like, there's 2 constructs in play next turn. I guess I can play one more turn and see if I draw another Burning Inquiry that actually hits well. I would have to, like, discard this Vengevine, and I'd have to draw 2 Madness creatures. So that's about where we're at. Alright. Yeah, sure. You can wasteland my land. I have to get the basic here. Otherwise, that happens. So this card needs to be Burning Inquiry. It is not Burning Inquiry. Alright, I will concede. I do believe I am not supposed to play around Force of Vigor, because, like, the Vengevine comes back later in the world where my opponent has, like, literally anything else. That's very frustrating. Alright, this hand has no real plan, so despite the fact that it has a mix of lands and spells, it's just no good. Do I bottom my land here? Feels like I bottom my land here and put 5 creatures into play on turn 1? I don't know, it's possible keeping the Taiga to pump a Blazing Rootwalla is just better than playing a Basking Rootwalla, though. Let's keep the Taiga. And get rid of one of the green boys. See what our opponent is on. Pretty disastrous for me if I lose LED to a discard spell here. Or I guess a counter spell. My hand gets significantly weaker. I actually think I'm going to lead on Faithless Looting here. Man. No, I'm just going to lead on Faithless Looting here in the hopes that this gets countered so LED doesn't. This is not a normal play pattern. Yeah, so I'll just discard 2 lizards here. Probably double Blazing right now. And cast these. And hope that this LED resolves. It's pretty sick if it does. Alright, so the real question is, like, am I going to crack this on my opponent's end step? If I wait till my next turn cycle, I can use it to cast both of these cards. It's a less aggressive line. Because, like, Anje's Ravager attacking immediately would be super cool. My opponent may go for a Prismatic Ending or something on an LED and just, like, not give me the choice about whether or not I do that. I probably make the disciplined play, the disciplined play and wait here. Like, getting both of those cards is so good and will be much better versus Swords to Plowshares. Well, that's Prismatic Ending on a Lizard. That occurs. Yeah, I think I wait to play both of these on my next turn. Oh. Oh. Okay. So, take your 1. I believe I am supposed to do this now, despite the fact that it would expose me to a Terminus, so I can draw an extra card off of this. Alright. Crack for black. Madness triggers. Alright, I will cast this one. Need to leave my red mana for Anje's Ravager. And then cast the Anje's Ravager, which is, I think, the better of the 2 cards here. Alright, opponent agrees. I do not get to cast this second Asylum Visitor. But I do get another lizard. So this gives me... Oh, I see. This is worded at the beginning of each player's upkeep if that player. So this isn't actually going to give me a card until my turn. F. Like, I've got an Ox of Agonis in the not-too-distant future, but my board's pretty bad. Like, I am ahead on board. Like, I've got 4 damage a turn with an Ox of Agonis in the not-too-distant future. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 8 required in order to do that. Unfortunately, my opponent's removal is going to exile. But fortunately, my opponent kind of has to use their Ponder to hit land drops. Currency Converter, wild. So they're like a 3-color Urza's Saga deck. Alright. I'll pump the lizard. Opponent takes 4, going to 9. This is going to be a pain, because like this can make 2/2 black rogues after a couple of turns. And my opponent, like, realizing the value of the rogues is just going to kind of immediately go in that direction. And a 2/2 every other turn is definitely a pain for me. My hand's very bad. Going to be very soft to a Swords to Plowshares here. My opponent's probably favored at this juncture. Like, I can get out of this, but all it is going to take is 1 big card or 1 more removal spell, I think, for me to be in trouble. Alright. Not overly surprised seeing that. Hand's bad. I think I just attack with both of my creatures here. Like, they get a 2/2. They could block this one and take 3. Or they can just block this one and trade with the better one and then deal with this one later. I think I'm okay with either timeline. I just need to get the points of damage in. And if my opponent takes the block that doesn't kill their creature, but I get 3 points of damage in, I think that's worth it. Either way, 1 point of damage here means that a Vengevine at any point in the game becomes lethal. Okay, the opponent is just going to take the trade here. That's fine. I'm actually pretty well off if I draw a card, since my opponent left me with this one. Or sorry, if I draw a land specifically. This is the immediate currency converter activation, which may take my opponent off of fetching if I draw a land. Green land, please. Fuck yeah. Let's go. Alright. There's Taiga. Opponent says, should have blocked the green one last turn. Just figured that out. Yeah, I was fine with either timeline. Alright, so here's the pump. My opponent goes to 1. Prismatic Vista is no longer live. I am favored on board versus currency converter. I've got to dodge some sort of like timeless dragon style card or Sharknado. Shark Typhoon, there we go. Gotta dodge something like that. I'm good against a lot of other stuff here. Alright, so after the block, I will pump this, and I live through this creature, which is great for me. So, fetch lands are off, and if my opponent doesn't cast a spell, there's a lot of worlds where, like, this is the turn where I kill them. Alright, we see the currency converter activation to dig, and Prismatic Vista will go under this card. Alright, fantastic. Ooh, I've got some pretty good follow-up plays here. Not to mention the Ox of Agonos, which I believe is now live. Alright, no blockers. 1 damage. Ah, yes. This stands still. I will take my draw 3. And I have good things to do with my mana. So I am okay with that just happening. So, whatever I do pretty much resolves. I have all these Vengevines. I think I just ignore the Burning Inquiry here for the moment. I think I go Putrid Imp as my first creature of the turn. Discard 1. Discard 2. Discard 3. Cast a free hollow one. Say yes to all 3 of these. Let that resolve. I maybe just hold back as of this point, so that I don't play too many things into Terminus. Yeah, this is fine. Although I'm maybe supposed to play out the Lion's Eye Diamond. Under away. Their 2 cards need to be like White Land and Supreme Verdict, I guess. Alright, good stuff. I'm not sure that I'm actually going to sideboard any cards for this matchup. Kitchen Imp is reasonable as something with haste. I can consider like an Ancient Grudge or 2 to deal with Currency Converter. Yeah. Maybe an Ancient Grudge or 2 to deal with Currency Converter is fine. Alright, I buy that. I probably don't want to get rid of Anje's Ravagers or Asylum Visitors. I could see myself getting rid of Hollow Ones, because they like require me to go more all-in versus Sweepers. I don't think I want to get rid of the early creatures. They trigger the Vengevines and give me my most aggressive starts. Let's play like 2 of these. Maybe I can just get rid of a Singleton Imp and like trim a Hollow One. Yeah, something like that's fine. I don't know. Maybe like playing Ancient Grudge is overboarding. Oh, buddy. I will be keeping this hand. It's very good. It goes all in very quickly, but it's very strong. So the line is probably going to be Mountain, play LED, play Burning Inquiry, hoping to keep Hollow One, and then do Anje's Ravager stuff afterwards. My opponent showed me a Wasteland, right? That was this game. I think my opponent showed me a Wasteland. Alright, in that case, I am going to go ahead and play Mountain first ability. Play the LED. If my opponent has Force of Will, that should get Force of Willed. Fantastic. It did not. So this will be a Burning Inquiry. Alright. So I can now cast a Hollow One for free. And at instant speed, I can do Anje's Ravager. Do I want to give my opponent another look at Force of Will? I am going to. Like, it's one more draw. But, like, there's a lot of worlds where a Source of Plowshares gets pointed at Hollow One here or something like that. Yeah, that's fine. That gets rid of my Ox. Not actually that big of a deal. Don't actually have the mana for Flashback Ancient Grudge at this exact moment. Is slightly awkward. Alright, nice. Opponent still doesn't have a counter spell, and their Soul Guide Lantern isn't looking super strong as of right now. Ooh, an LED. LED means I can Ancient Grudge if I need to. I obviously play that out pre-combat. Alright. Attack with everything. I'm not gonna crack LED to pump this turn. Oh god, that's good. Alright, this drops my opponent to 12. And I've got some scary stuff going on here. I think I'm good just passing the turn. I have to respect that, like, Terminus is a thing that can occur. But it didn't occur this time. Opponent has, like, all this graveyard hate, but, like, it's the onboard madness stuff that's actually doing well for me here. My opponent has, like, a Planeswalker. It's just a Narset. 4, 7, 10, 11. I think this is the moment where I go ahead and crack LED to put Anje's Ravager into play. Yeah, I'm just gonna do that before they get one more look at a Force of Will. This theoretical lethal damage. Actually, I was probably supposed to crack, get green, junk this, so that I can have the anger in my graveyard for in case the top card of my deck is another creature. Okay, that creature specifically wouldn't have mattered. GG. This is very close to a good hand, but I can't actually cast this Putrid Imp. So this hand doesn't actually do anything. I think I have to mulligan this hand. Like the fact that this is double taiga is just very awkward here. This hand gets improved by a lot of draws, but I think it's just dead enough of the time that I'd rather mulligan. I will choose to believe in this hand and toss back Basic Mountain, I think. If I decide I want Basic Mountain, I can still fetch it. But I think my colors matter in a lot of worlds here. I think I'm interested in just casting Faithless Looting this turn. I think I'd play that off of Taiga. I think I just try to set up for next turn being grosser by... Yeah. Alright, so I'll put Anger and Vengevine into the graveyard this turn. And then next turn, between Burning Inquiry and just like casting a Basking Rootwalla if need be, I should be able to return Vengevine and attack with 1 or 2 Hasty Lizards. This makes me nervous, though. I think I don't play the Burning Inquiry this turn, actually. Or at least I don't start off playing that. I start off fetching for bad lands, playing Putrid Imp. Now, 100% of the time, I can return a Vengevine. So I cast Burning Inquiry here, trying to find another. This should usually work out pretty well. Alright. Don't care about the Asylum Visitor here. That's a no. I do care about the Basking Rootwalla. That's a yes. I'll cast that with Madness. Return the Vengevine. My creatures are currently nice and hasty, which means that I will Madness these other lizards into play. And repeat for the Blazing. Pass this. So I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can turn it into 9 damage if I discard Anje's Ravager. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Next turn is 16, 19 with a pump. I think I am actually going to take this 1 extra point of damage here. I am kind of suspecting that my opponent is something like Storm or Show and Tell. So every point of damage probably matters. Let's send him. This is a turn 3 Goldfish. Like, this is a very good aggro kill. Opponent's at 11. What you got? I randomly took a Brainstorm with Burning Inquiry. So I'm somewhat unlikely to see another end of turn Brainstorm. Alright, we are seeing something, though. A Volcanic Island. Just fetching for thinning. They didn't cast that Brainstorm. Okay, a Snow-Covered Swamp. Okay, sure. Yes. Uh-huh. For blue. Okay, so we are playing against, looks like Ant. Blue mana for Past in Flames. Okay, you've got a bunch of mana. Like, okay, they're all in on a Brainstorm gamble. That's fine. We'll see if they can actually kill. And if they top decked an Infernal Tutor, that probably does it. From count 7, they have a handful of other rituals. Okay, yeah, they're all in on a Brainstorm. Alright, they've cracked for blue so that they can potentially hit another cantrip and keep churning. Infernal Tutor is a deterministic kill. They've got 3 more rituals in the graveyard. Alright, we luck out this time. Fantastic. Alright, so my plan here is get more aggressive. I do not believe that I am going to board in Leyline of the Voids. I just need to kill my opponent. Burning Inquiries are weird in this matchup. My Ox is going to go. That's a little slow. I'm not sure if I want to treat Burning Inquiry as a disruption card. It's weird because it like makes Cabal Ritual better, but my opponent has very specific cards in hand that they need. And Burning Inquiry can mess with that. Hollow One is the thing that requires the most setup from my hand. But Burning Inquiry is the least consistent thing in my hand, and I think I care about consistency. I think I'm going to go down to Burning Inquiries. It's also possible that I should play a Meltdown for artifact mana that's played out, but I don't think my opponent has a strong reason to play artifacts out and pass the turn with them. I think they're supposed to hold them in hand for Storm reasons. Although Burning Inquiry is a reason to play them out. Meltdown is just 1 mana, destroy all artifact mana that's played out. Alright, I could see it over maybe 1 Asylum Visitor or 1 Hollow one. Asylum Visitor is better if I crack LED for black, which I'm going to do some portion of the time. Oh my gosh, it is another double Taiga Putrid Imp hand. If either one of these was a black land, I just have like a turn 3 goldfish. That's super unfortunate. So I have to mulligan this one. Wow. Do I keep this? My opponent has mulligan to 5. I just keep this and play Burning Inquiry on turn 1 and hope that it improves my hand while messing with my opponent's hand. I think I'll keep it. It's a little sketch. I just think with an extra card for being on the draw, this improves enough that it's okay. Like, sometimes you need to get a little lucky for the game that's on the draw anyway. And, like, the hand is resilient against a discard spell taking one of these, which I guess is another reason to try and keep it. Right, that is a shuffle. So my opponent is... Ooh, yeah. Okay. So, I do this. I do this. Probably go for the Burning Inquiry line. Although, I can just go for end of my opponent's turn, double Anje's Ravager and Basking Rootwalla. That's probably better. Let's ignore these cards. It's possible the Burning Inquiry disrupts my opponent in this turn cycle, though, and, like, it can matter. Alright, that's a fast Brainstorm. I'm safe enough for now. Crack this for red. And, let's get Ravaging. Is 7 damage in this turn. Likely lethal the following turn, after I've drawn so many cards. Alright. Ravager number 1. Resolves. Ravager number 2. Also resolves. Would you like to Mind Break Trap my Basking Rootwalla? No. Alright. Do I play this card out with mana? I do not believe so. I don't have an Anger in my graveyard at this time. Let's just go ahead and send these in. So we'll get a discard 3. We'll cast that card. Fantastic. I'll get a discard 3. I unfortunately don't have a black land in play. So I can't actually do either one of these cards here. Which is unfortunate. No to both. Can't actually do anything productive with my mana this turn. This may need to be a 4 Badlands, 2 Taiga deck, or I might need to go up some number of fetch lands. Just don't think I have enough black mana here. I have lethal next turn in a lot of worlds, because I have 10 damage showing, plus this fetch land. I only need 1 more damage. And I just have that if I draw any black mana source. Okay, there's the fetch. I think my opponent mulliganed like to 5 in this match or something like that. They were thinking about casting something, so probably a Brainstorm. Alright, there is the Brainstorm that I suspected. Alright, Brainstorm has resolved. Okay, that fetch land means my opponent is dead on board, so they have to win this turn. Oh, I don't think they can win this turn. I think they can win this turn if they tap Volcanic Island instead. Oh, okay, yeah. I just don't think they realize that they're dead on board to the Lizard Pump. I think they looked at 9 damage. Sorry, I think they looked at 8 damage and went, that's fine. Okay. Send them on in. Discard all those cards. Will not cast that card. Discard all these cards. Move to declare blockers. Pump the Lizard. For exactly 10 damage and a turn 3 goldfish. I mean, folks, that's what we needed here. And though it didn't come up, like, I think my general strategy of trying to just be aggressive enough that, like, we can steal these matchups by just killing our opponent rather than playing another color for something like Deafening Silence is probably a good approach. Because, like, we saw, like, I got punished, I think, twice in the last 2 rounds for having a double Taiga opener when I didn't have access to black mana. Alright, final round here. We're 2-2. I go land, LED. Okay, the hand's going to be a keep. I'll let my opponent make their mulligan decision. So, I wonder if I'm supposed to get basic mountain here so that I never get wastelanded off of red mana. think I do. I do play the Lion's Eye Diamond right now. There's some niche worlds where this is a 1-turn line instead of a 2-turn line. We going all in? Discard Anger Vengevine. Junk LED. Play double Rootwalla. Yeah, I'm going all in. Wasn't planning on that. I was planning on 2-turning this in a lot of worlds. Oh, actually, this can be Faithless Looting, can't it? Yeah, this can be Faithless Looting as well. Alright. Crack for red. Pass with Madness. Pass with Madness. That does return Vengevine. Yes. So this is currently 5 damage this turn. 5, 7, 7. That's 19. It may actually be better to just pump Blazing Rootwalla here than to cast Faithless Looting. I am going to just do that. I'm going to take the damage now over the potential damage. Like, if I end up finding a 0-cost creature, the damage evens out. But I think I just want to get in now. Like, the damage matters a lot if my opponent is just, like, playing some white removal spells or something like that. One thing, in regards to multi-turning my lines, by fetching Basic Mountain on turn 1 to not get Wastelanded, I do make it harder for me to play double Rootwalla if I want to hard cast both of them to preserve my Lion's Eye Diamond for some reason. I have 0 information for what my opponent is playing. My opponent did not want to show me any cards to inform my sideboarding decisions. They've got a couple of choices. I can just whack the submit button, or I can try to make some assumptions. So, if my opponent has no chance of winning after I do that, after I make this first play, what does that mean? It maybe means that they're not an all-in combo deck like Oops All Spells or Reanimator. It probably means that they're not a deck like Lands that could just, like, Glacial Chasm and get themselves out of it. So maybe a blue deck of some kind is more likely. I think I'm just going to whack the submit button, but I'm thinking about, like, boarding in Kitchen Imp blind. Yeah, this hand is hot. I'll keep this. My intention is Faithless Looting for double Vengevine in graveyard on turn 1, followed by Putrid Imp into Blazing Rootwalla on turn 2. Ooh, it is a Chalice deck. Chalice on 1 is very good against my hand. You might ask, Phil, how are we going to beat Chalice on 1? Got an answer for you. Called Thinking with Portals. We're going to move to our cleanup and discard a Vengevine. Chalice counters them. Vengevine only cares that I cast them. So I am going to I am going to go to end step again and put another Vengevine into my discard pile. The pacing of this game is such that this Urza Saga is going to beat my graveyard in a lot of worlds. I'm banking on my opponent not having graveyard hate, which is, like, not a reasonable thing to do, but I just don't think I win this game by putting a single Vengevine into play, like, versus an active Urza Saga. Like, that's just not reasonable. Alright, so I will just put a land into play here and call it a turn. I now know how I need to sideboard. I will gain important information about, like, what Urza Saga tutor target my opponent has. There's going to be some sort of Tormod's Crypt, Graph Digger's Cage, Soul Guide Lantern sort of card that comes out here. I just don't know which one it is. Alright, it is Soul Guide Lantern. At this point, I know the matchup. I'm comfortable conceding. Like, my opponent is ahead on board and has, like, Soul Guide. Ancient Grudges are 100% in. And then from there, I have to make some choices. Firestorm's okay. Kitchen Imp's okay. I don't know that I'm, like, super into Burning Inquiry in this matchup because of Emery. Conceptually speaking, I would like to make a large turn 1 presence with my hand. I think I'm going to get rid of Burning Inquiries to play these cards. I'm sort of thinking about getting rid of some hollow ones. Like, the hollow ones are really good on Putrid Imp openers, but after boarding out Burning Inquiries, they're otherwise kind of eh. If I board in Kitchen Imp in their place, I get better at lines that involve me cracking LED for black on turn 1. A little weird that I don't have a Bayou for worlds where I want to... Or no, if I'm cracking LED for black, it doesn't matter. Got like a Taiga. Yeah, this is fine. Games could be a little weird. Alright. Taiga, Faithless Looting, discard Anger Vengevine is a pretty good start. And then I kind of hope to do something gross on turn 2 in some capacity. Alright. Vengevine, Anger. I can play a more controlling role if I need to with Ancient Grudge, Flashback, Ancient Grudge. As of right. Okay. Sure. I do not believe there is any reason to do that with that timing. I think that is a very actively bad play. I don't think it's going to matter for my opponent, but like there's no reason to pull the trigger on that there, like without me having like an LED in play or something like that to supplement. It's like they are potentially missing out on exiling this Ancient Grudge. Okay, this is all fine thus far. Uh-huh. Amory here is a pain, yeah. Amory kind of invalidates my Ancient Grudge. My opponent can just bring stuff back. Oh, I think I have to basically concede the game here. Like, even if I draw a Meltdown, my opponent just still has the Emery to bring all of this stuff back. Yeah, I think I'm dead. Like, this is Recursive Graveyard Hate, Recursive Creature Hate. I did not board in Firestorm when I was on the play to deal with Emery, so I can't ever kill it. And my opponent can also, like, bury me in a Chalice War in a way that beats this card. Yeah, I think the opening hands just line up in a way that, like, my opponent wins this one. I am just going to accept that and move on with my life, and we end up with a 2-3 in this league. Overall thoughts on the deck list. Not bad, but generally speaking, I don't think Madness is a well-positioned deck in Legacy anymore. I think it had this very brief window where it was one of the best decks in Legacy, and that window very quickly closed. And now it's a deck that you can play, but it's much more of a pet project than a, like, super viable deck list. I do not believe Asylum Visitor drew us a single card in the entire league, which probably means that it should not be in the deck. And, like, these slots should just be replaced by, like, Street Wraiths or something of that general nature. Kitchen Imps did not particularly shine in this league. That said, I didn't draw them very many times. Hollow ones did not particularly shine in this league. Vengevines and Anje's Ravagers looked good. Putrid Imp looked good. LED did LED things. Like, those cards looked good. I'm not sure how I feel about the supporting cast of the deck list. I'm kind of the opinion that until this deck gets more cards for it, or some of the cards that potentially are good in the shell actually come to Magic Online, there's a large demon that, like, you can put into play off an LED, and by paying a bunch of life that, like, might be reasonable in this shell, but it's not on Magic Online to test it. But I kind of feel like the deck needs more support. Like, Burning Inquiry is a powerful but inconsistent card, and, like, the Burning Inquiry Hollow One hands feel really good, or, like, the Burning Inquiry hands where you don't discard your critical cards feel really good. But generally speaking, a lot of times, like, I feel like you're kind of forced into a third color with this strategy, you know, be it black or blue for, like, breakthroughs and careful studies, because you just don't have enough good cards in the core to, like, support a 2-color deck. And even with a 3-color deck, like, you're still a little light on playables. I think to make the hollow ones good, you just need the Street Wraiths in the main deck. Without them, like, hollow one felt a little bit clunky. Beyond that, I'm a little unsure of some of the numbers. Like, you can play another Ox of Agonis. You can play Gamble. Gamble is, like, okay, but again, it's an inconsistent element in a deck that's trying to consistently turn 3 Goldfish. Possible I should have mulliganed some of my hands more, fishing a little bit harder. But generally speaking, you know, The deck gets the shaky thumbs up where, like, the deck list was reasonable, but I'm not sure how competitive the overall strategy is in Legacy right now. Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please click the like button on the way out. It helps a lot. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and if you want to talk about the deck, jump into the comments. All right, see ya!